Hi. For the past 8 years here on YouTube, I have reviewed countless art supplies. I've seen everything from the good, the bad, and just plain scary. And today, I'm gonna take it to the next level because I'm gonna try making my own art supplies. And here's the catch. With each art supply that I make, it's only gonna get progressively harder and harder, with one art supply taking 5 solid days to create. So with that being said, let's get into our very first art supply. All right, so we're gonna start off with level 1. And for this one, we're gonna start off with a bang because we're gonna be making arguably the most commonly used art supply, acrylic paint. Surprisingly, you only need 2 ingredients to make acrylic paint. Clear acrylic medium, which is basically like acrylic paint except with no pigment inside of it, and pigment. And if you're interested in trying any of these DIY art supplies for yourself, I'll leave the links to everything and where I bought it from in the description box down below. And even though this recipe is only 2 ingredients, the problem with it is that I have to work very quickly because acrylic paint dries so quick. So with my glass slab and molar, I'm just gonna put a little bit of pigment down, a lot of acrylic medium, and get to work molding. Okay, oh my gosh. After all that mulling, this little jar right here is all it made. All right, so first up will be the blue color, which this one was the first one that I made. And let's check it out. Oh, that is watery. That is watery! Next up will be black. Oh yeah, this one's already a million times better. Next is the dark blue. And this one, unfortunately, is also very watery. And lastly, we have the white. Okay, yeah, that is not my best work. And now I know that the next time I make these, I need to add way more pigment than I thought. But I do have a conspiracy theory, and that's that if I just add enough layers and work very, very slowly, I think that I can make them work. I think. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so here is the artwork, and I definitely underestimated the amount of pigment that needs to go inside of an art supply, but I do have to say it worked just like regular acrylic paint. And it was so easy for my first attempt at making acrylic paint, but I know that it's only gonna get harder from here. So this brings us to level 2. For this level, I decided that I'm going to make crayons. And wait, I'm sure you've seen it many times where people will make crayons by getting already existing crayons, breaking them up into pieces, melting them down, pouring them into molds, and repurposing them. And I think that's a really smart idea as far as like recycling them goes, but technically it's not making crayons. So here is how you actually make crayons from scratch. I'm gonna put on some water. I'm gonna get my metal jug thing that I use for candle making and place that in the water. Starting off, I'm gonna put 19 grams of paraffin wax, 10 grams of beeswax, and half a gram of cosmetic grade stearic acid. And lastly, a few drops of Dr. Martin's water-based ink. And once it's all melted, as so, I'm gonna pour it in the mold and just let it chill.
A few moments later.
And voila, my finished crayon. Isn't she beautiful? And I thought it'd be interesting if we compared this crayon to some regular Crayolas and see if there really is that big of a difference. First up will be the Crayola. Here is what it looks like. This is the color Beautiful. And here is the crayon that I made. It works just like a regular crayon, although it is a little bit more like chunky and waxy in some areas where I like pressed it really hard, but it works. It works just like a regular crayon. So here is what I created with the crayons. It's the creation of atom hands, except done with a crayon. And even though I'm very happy with the pigment of these crayons, I do wish that I would have added a little bit more essential oil. That way it would have been a little bit more smoother. And I do wish I was able to find a much smaller mold than what I used because these crayons were just like way too thick to get really detailed with it. But yeah, not bad for my very first attempt at making crayons from scratch. Now this brings us to level 3. For this paint, I decided to go with the paint that I've actually made a few times before on my channel. It's an ancient paint that you'll see all throughout art history. This is the one, the only Egg Tempra. Not to be confused with Egg Tempera. Now I'm gonna be so serious with you guys for a second. Every single time I have made this paint, I have gagged because the process of making this paint just gives me the absolute ick. It's awful. I hate it. So here's how you make it. First things first, you're gonna get your egg, crack it in half, and try to separate the egg yolk from the egg whites. Then you're gonna put the yolk in your hand, switch it over to the other hand, and you're just gonna keep on wiping the egg until there's no liquid left on the yolk. Once that's done, you're gonna pop open the egg yolk, drip its contents into a container, mix it with a little bit of water, some pigment, and boom, you have Egg Tempra paint. Okay, that actually wasn't that bad. And I think it's because the egg yolk is actually from my own chickens that I raise, and the egg yolk was very high quality. The gagging was only at a minimum. Oh god. This is so vile. Alright, so let's try it out. Oh yeah, it's a really beautiful dark green. And the texture of it is just chef kiss. Kind of like a thicker watercolor. I love the color, it's so good! Oh, shout out Violet, you're the best! Okay, so I just finished the Egg Tempra drawing, and here it is. Out of all the art supplies that you're gonna see today, this one I would say is overall the best one. It's easy to make, it works really well, and it's cheap. The only downside is the horrific part where you have to like touch a raw egg, but if you can get past that part, it's so fun to make. Now this brings us to level 4. From this point forward, the making of the art supplies is only gonna get significantly more difficult from here. For level 4, I chose one of the most aesthetic art supplies out there. You know it, you love it. We're gonna make watercolor. Yes, you heard it right. We are going to make watercolor. I could have made this segment a lot easier on myself because they do make watercolor binder that you can buy, but
that's not really how we do things here on this channel.
So I'm gonna show you guys how to make watercolor from scratch. First things first, get a jar, mate. So first you're gonna add 1 cup of boiling hot water to a large jar. Add 1.5 cups of gum arabic powder, and this is an absolute must ingredient. You cannot replace it with anything else. You're gonna add 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of vegetable glycerin, and again, stir it all up in between each step. And lastly, we're gonna add 1/2 milliliter of clove essential oils. You're gonna give it one last good mix. And then after letting it sit for 24 hours, you should have the base of your watercolor paint. I like the color of it. It kind of looks like apple cider vinegar or honey or something. It's so pretty. All right, so now that I have my base, this takes us to basically the steps of the very first art supply, where I combine the pigment and the binder together. So back to mulling I go. Okay, so I totally forgot to swatch the watercolor. It took 3 days for the watercolor to dry in the little pot, and in that 3-day time span, I forgot that I didn't film the swatches, and I just went straight into the artwork. I am absolutely smitten with how shiny the mica pigment is. It gives the artwork just a little extra kick of interesting. And not to mention, I still have a whole jar of binder so I can make even more watercolor, which I think homemade watercolor would be a really fun Christmas gift, by the way. But yeah, even though this was very time consuming, this was totally worth it. And real quick before we get into level 5, I just want to give a shout out to my second channel, SuperRaeDizzle Extras. Over there, I do bonus videos. I test out really strange and weird things that I find off the internet. Like recently, I just did a deep dive on food TikTok where I tried some of the craziest food hacks that I could find. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with that channel. A lot of you guys seem to like it too. And if you want to check out my second channel, it'll be the first link in the description box of this video. Or you can just type in SuperRaeDizzle Extras in the YouTube search bar. But anyway, let's get back into the last art supply, which will be level 5, aka the grand finale. Now for this one, I've actually already created it. And the reason I'm not gonna do a live demo of this one is because it took me
5 days
to make. For this last art supply, I decided to make walnut ink from scratch. Alright, so starting on day 1, I'm gonna get a giant pot and fill it with water. Then I'm gonna mix in some black walnut hulls, which are the outer shell of the walnut, and I'm gonna mix it up really, really well.
Oh gosh, it's already turning black. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Then I'm gonna let it sit in my garage for a few days. That way it can really soak out all the black dyes from the walnut husks. And I'm gonna come back in 4 days' time. Alright, so now that it's soaked, I'm gonna put it into, surprise, another pot. And the reason I'm using a strainer and cheesecloth I cannot say that word, cheesecloth is so I can get out all the really large pieces. And after a few hours of draining, I'm gonna put it on a hot pot and I'm just gonna boil it for a few hours, like 3 hours total. And by the way, I'm letting this bowl alone outside because walnut hulls are poisonous and I don't want to be breathing it in. I don't want my dogs to be breathing it in, and I just want to be very careful. And after 3 hours, it's turned into a nice sludge, and I'm gonna dump it yet again into another filter and into a Tupperware. And after all that work, here is my walnut ink. Isn't she a beaut? This gorgeous black sludge that's been sitting in my garage for 5 days. She's absolutely beautiful. All right, so I'm just gonna get a little bit on my brush. Oh my god, she's beautiful. I can't believe how dark I was able to get it. This is like a true neutral brown. And the best thing is that I can layer it so I can make it like super, super, super dark if I wanted to. And it's completely water soluble, so I can use it just like any other ink at the store. And adding the alcohol makes the shelf life of this ink up to a solid year, if not more. And even though this took 5 days to make, I think this is absolutely totally worth it. And with that being said, our journey comes to an end. This video was so fun to make. I'm really shocked by how well some of these art supplies really worked. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you're new here, I have 8 years worth of videos that you can binge. And I also have my whole entire second channel, SuperRaeDizzle Extras, that you can go check out. And with that being said, guys, thanks so much again for watching. I hope you have a good day. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.